I am going to rank 80 Mario games today. Why? Because I'm not a true Mario fan that has played every single game this plumber's pumped out across the last 40 years. However, for this list, no Donkey Kong, Wario and Yoshi games will be included, as much as I admire the abomination that is Yoshi Touch and Go. Also, any remakes, remasters and ports will be included in the same position as the original game to avoid repetition and the list being even longer than it should be. Without further ado, let's not say that and just begin with the list. 80. Donkey Kong Jr. Guess putting the only Mario game where Mario is the villain at the bottom of the list goes to show you how much I love this plumber. Or maybe that's Mario's dad. Whoever it is, he literally dies at the end of this game. Only if you're cool enough to play the NES version though. Otherwise, DK just kicks him off the screen. Or, I guess that's Cranky Kong, I don't know. Anyways, besides that, the clunky controls really make this frustrating to play, like its predecessor. And yes, this game is old, very old, so I won't get too worked up about it, but when compared to the rest of this list, it deserves to be at the bottom sadly. Sorry DK Jr., but you'll always be my favorite Super Mario Kart player of all time. 79. Mario Kart Live Home Circuit. What even is this? The concept of making custom courses in your own house sounds perfect. That is if the game doesn't become unplayable as your kart moves only 2 meters away from your Switch. To avoid this issue, now I'm just forced to make a bootleg baby park for every single race, rather than to create the tracks I've always dreamed of. Maybe my internet is just horrible, but the poor range in which this kart moves truly ruins the entire experience of fun. That is, if you even call this game fun, because the only hour I played of this game was pure frustration. 78. Donkey Kong. Even if this technically started it all, it does not stand a chance on this list whatsoever. Like DK Jr., the controls are extremely stiff, to a point where the name Jumpman sounds quite amusing. Also, similar to other games near the bottom, after playing for a couple of minutes, I quickly stop and move on to something else. After all, it is an arcade game, so it isn't meant to be played for countless of hours, but the next game can't use that same excuse. 77. Mario Party The Top 100. Wow, what an exciting game. The reason why I didn't increase the game count and call this video the top 100 Mario games of all time, as it would be drowned under every video on this game, which surprisingly get a lot of views. Seriously, maybe I should start making some Mario Party gameplay videos without commentary. Anyways, in every single way possible, Mario Party Superstars outclasses this failed lab experiment, which looks even worse because of it. First, there's only one board, and of course it has to be the saddest looking board in this entire series. Even Minigame Stadium from Mario Party 1 and 2 may in fact be more exciting to play on, and they aren't even really classified as proper boards. Also, the game is meant to be the top 100 minigames of all time, yet in my opinion, if this game was called the bottom 100, it would make no difference at all. Like, there are 3 minigames from Mario Party 8, and one of them is cranked to rank? My most hated minigame from 8. It is truly a shame that I haven't played many Mario Party games, yet this is one I, for some odd reason, picked up. 76. Mario Golf Super Rush. Since the release of the Switch, Nintendo has fortunately resurrected plenty of Mario franchises to their former glory days. Yet, Mario sports games are still suffering. However, I think the main reason why I dislike this game is because it's golf, even though that sounds very harsh. You can Marioify this game with a seemingly cool campaign and the new edition of Speed Golf, but it just doesn't work for me. Also, the few bosses here look cool, yet this game was so mind-numbing I stopped playing it before getting to any of them, even though I remember playing a decent chunk of the campaign. The boredom of Super Rush will certainly cause me to not try out another Mario Golf game for a very long time. 75. Mario Party 10. It's fine when a series attempts to introduce new mechanics to avoid redundancy. Although if this attempt is a clear failure, why do it again? But wait, there's a thrilling mode of Bowser Party this time around. Oh, what fun. The only issue is whenever I play as King Koopa himself, it is the most unfair thing ever and it is just an automatic victory. If you do miss the good old days of running around the board, there is an entire Amiibo mode to play, which you can't if you don't have an Amiibo. Fortunately, you're not missing out on much as each board is a literal square. Sure, there are some cool themes like a galaxy theme for Rosalina of course, but it doesn't help the fact that it's still a square. But if you really want to enjoy a proper Mario Party board, just go play one of the first 8 games instead. However, I do have to admit the bosses are pretty cool in Mario Party 10, especially the final one where you shoot Bowser with a tank. But one final thing is that when recording footage for this video, I wasn't able to find a free play mode, which is strange, so I can't play minigames of my choice. And if that's true, that's just pretty sad. 74. Super Mario Run. The worst 2D platformer obviously goes to a mobile game where movement feels extremely restricted because, like the title implies, Mario runs automatically. So this turns into another mobile runner game which is inferior to games like Subway Surfers and Jetpack Joyride, which released way back in 2012 and 2011 respectively. So, when this released at the end of 2016, I really didn't need another endless runner, even if it had Mario tacked onto it. Also, I love how Nintendo showcased the game that it can be played with one hand like it's something so revolutionary, despite literally every other mobile game I listed can do the exact same thing. Plus, it doesn't help that after World 1 it costs $10 to unlock the entire game, which doesn't sound much for a Mario game, but of course, we need to remember this is a mobile game of the same category as games which are free to play. Overall, this is just a simplified new Super Mario Bros. Game. But it still is 2D Mario, so you'll have some fun playing it. This is true for other modes the game offers like Toad Rally, which sort of works similar to time trials in Mario Kart, and Remix 10, which involves playing through extremely short levels while collecting Rainbow Star coins. And before Mario Wonder, this did have the largest amount of playable characters in a 2D Mario game, with a whopping 11 losing to Wonder by 1 character. Then again, they're like 5 different Yoshi colors, so maybe it's not that impressive. 73. Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. Just like Nintendo claimed all those years ago, the game is too hard to a point where poor 10-year-old me was suffering so hard that he couldn't even beat it. Then again, that's not really saying much because 10-year-old me wasn't that good at 2D Mario games, and I still am not very good. Besides its difficulty, this game is very unfair to a point where I'm wondering if I'm actually playing a Super Mario Bros. ROM hack instead. Pretty sure a lot of people have said that before, and also the fact that these levels feel like frustrating Mario Maker levels as well. In reality, maybe I just suck at 2D Mario and need to simply get good. But you have to admit that when a game's only brand new power-up is a poison mushroom, the Lost Levels is definitely not trying to make you smile. 72. Mario Sports Superstars. Literally the top 100 iteration of Mario Sports, with everyone's favorites: soccer/football, baseball, tennis, golf, and the one with the horse. This game takes fleshed out games and dumbs them down to their most basic form, especially soccer, where I can't even punch a toad anymore like in Strikers. Truly sad times. There are also cards to collect in this game if you are wild enough to go for the completion run, but the best part is that Pink Gold Peach is an unlockable character. And really, after this game I was worried if she'd be a reoccurring character in all spin-offs. Fortunately, Nintendo quickly realized Pauline exists and resurrected her from the dead in Odyssey, which led to addition in all Mario Sports titles on the Switch. 71. Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games. Just so note, I've only played the DS version, and when I did play this, it was a very long time ago, like probably over decades, so my memory is very fuzzy, but I have played it, so I'm still gonna include it. And for what I experienced, this game it's alright, nothing really stands out, that's why it's here. And also because I always prefer the summer titles for these Mario and Sonic games as well. But if I did play the Wii U winter games, I probably would think that's way worse, so Good on you, Mario and Sonic, for the DS for being better than that. 70. Super Mario Bros. 2. Sorry, but Mario 2 in my opinion isn't a whole lot better than the Lost Levels. The controls and overall gameplay just feels strange and not in a good way for me. Also, I still suck at this game somehow, even though the Lost Levels was meant to be the hard one. But I did last play this when I was probably even younger than when I played the Lost Levels. I do have to commend this game for its amazing introduction to many recognizable enemies, such as Shy Guy, Bob-omb, Ninja, Pokey, Sniffit, and my beloved Hoopster. Also, Bird is here as a boss, which is cool, I guess. It has been a while since I played this, of course, so I'm hoping my opinion can change if I ever get to replay it, especially because this game is fairly short, like I should just play it now. But from memory, this game was pretty mid and clunky, and for all those die-hard Mario fans, I need to tell you, did you know that this game is actually a reskin of Doki Doki Panic, exclusive to Europe? Wait, that's not right. 69. Mini Mario and Friends Amiibo Challenge, the most forgettable game on this list, which belongs to what I think is the most forgettable Mario series, which somehow has 7 games in total, and I've surprisingly played 5 of these. Well, that is 8 games if you count DK94 on the Game Boy, which is a sort of a sequel to the original Donkey Kong, yet a predecessor to Mario vs. Donkey Kong. But that doesn't matter, let's just talk about why Mini Mario and Friends Amiibo Challenge is the worst one. And yes, the name gives it away, as these levels are locked behind specific amiibos for different types of Mario characters, which, like Mario Party 10, the levels are themed based on the character. And considering the game is free to play, if you have any Mario amiibos lying around, or non-Mario ones where you can play some robot called Mini Spec, had to search that one up, the experience is okay. Although it does feel simplistic, since unlike prior games you don't have to control multiple minis at a time and it's just usually one. 68. Mario Bros. Back before they were deemed super, Mario and Luigi were stomping on shell creepers in this arcade game. And yes, you heard me, these turtles are not the beloved Koopa Troopers from Super Mario Bros., which might be why they were replaced with Spinies in the GBA remake to brutally annihilate all shell creepers from the Mario universe. The first time I played Mario Bros. Was a side mode in Superstar Saga of all things, where this remake is also included within all the Mario Advance games. Pretty much, the mechanic of attacking enemies from their rear end is enjoyable, but the simplicity forces me to place the game on the lower side of the list, due to the fun vanishing after playing this for an hour or so. 67. Mario vs. Donkey Kong Mini Land Mayhem. 66. Mario vs. Donkey Kong Minis March Again. 65. Mario vs. Donkey Kong 2 March of the Minis. These games are so similar to each other. It's even worse than the new Super Mario Bros. Games, so I'm not going to talk about these separately at all. The whole aim of these games is to rescue all the mini Marios, or other mini characters in puzzle style levels, with the use of the DS stylus to control the movement of the minis. Like the Mario and Sonic games, these are difficult to talk about as the titles just kind of exist, and this is such a subjective thing to say, but the mini games are kind of boring. I know. These puzzle games aren't really my thing. This is especially true when compared to the first Mario vs. Donkey Kong game on the GBA, which makes these titles seem worse, as this was a pretty good game. 64. Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. These Mario and Sonic games fulfill their aim of an enjoyable minigame collection of sports, especially with the dream events in the DS version, which is the version I do prefer. However, this excitement really only lasts for a short time, particularly when only a few events of this entire collection have decent replay value and the rest I don't really care too much of. And also, I did say the DS version is better because the stylus mechanics are pretty good, but the Wii's motion controls is just waggling it around mindlessly. There isn't too much skill there. And this was the first Mario and Sonic game, so when compared to its follow-ups, it's pretty bland. 63. Mario Kart Tour. For a free-to-play mobile game, the amount of content here is mind-blowing. There's an extremely wide range of courses, characters, karts, and gliders. Sure, a lot of these are just reskins, and the courses largely consist of ones from existing Mario Kart games. But the content here is still more vast than any console Mario Kart game, although a Deluxe is pretty close. In addition, every single course has a reverse trick and reverse/trick variant, which are really fun to play on and freshen up the experience. And to top it all, mission mode is back from DS! Hooray! Despite all odds in Tor's favour, this is undoubtedly my least favourite Mario Kart game, aside from Home Circuit, but that doesn't really feel like a standard Mario Kart experience. And if you've played this before or even just heard me calling this a free-to-play game beforehand, it's really clear why. First of all, only one tour can be played at a time, with them being swapped out for another tour after 2 weeks. Thus, you can only play a tiny selection of the game's various courses. Then there's a stinking gotcha mechanic of the spotlight pipe, which randomly gives characters, karts, and gliders, which makes the goal of collecting all of them basically impossible, since the high-end category is extremely hard to obtain, and it doesn't help the fact that a large majority of characters fall under that high-end range. Fortunately, the pipe has now been replaced for a spotlight shop. However, I don't know much of this too much, so I can't say anything about it, as it was implemented back in October 2022, and I last played this game in 2020. 62. Paper Mario Sticker Star. Isn't this one a fun game to talk about? I somehow have completed this 4 times already. Well, technically only 3, because the first time I couldn't even beat the boss. Like, there's so many things stickers, it's really annoying. Anyways, even placing this here may seem not low enough on the list. However, this is a case of negative enjoyment surpassing experiences of games that feel empty. Like, Sticker Star may be a worse game than all of Mario vs Donkey Kong, but at least it's not that boring. Anyways, Sticker Star's pointless battle system, where you literally waste stickers in fights, which instead can be saved by avoiding battles, combined with the bland new Super Mario Bros. Themes across worlds, is a true epitome of Mario being thrown in a dumpster. However, there is something about this contempt which connects us Mario fans together. Like, I'm pretty sure many can relate to their hatred for Kirsty, and how once she, spoiler alert, sacrifices herself in the final battle, oh no, I'm so scared for Kirsty, it causes us to appreciate this moment in turn for all the times she had annoyed us throughout the adventure. Also, I must admit there are some enjoyable moments in this game, like the Yoshi Sphinx and the Enigma Mansion stage. I didn't even know how to pronounce that. However, it's still not that of a good time, and there was no escape, as you can tell by Sticker Star's sequel. 61. Paper Mario Color Splash. Sticker Star tried something new and failed, so why not try it again? It's bound to work this time, and for almost everyone this was surprisingly an improvement. The vibrant graphics, amusing dialogue, and more fleshed out levels make this seem far more enjoyable. But you're not gonna fool me, Color Splash. The core gameplay literally feels the same, which is why it lands right next to Sticker Star. In fact, the use of cards in the battle system may cause it to be even worse than stickers, due to the tedious process of filling them with paint, which requires a Wii U gamepad. And as a side note, back in I'd say 2018, my gamepad stopped working, because no matter what battery I use, it never charged. Which means I can no longer play this game, so my opinion will never change. I will hate it forever. I know I shouldn't criticize the battles too much, as the overworld gameplay is solid. But if the battle system was the fundamental reason to why I enjoyed Paper Mario in the first place, then it doesn't help that it feels so black and white in a game all about color. But the worst part of battles is that those gimmicky thing items back in Sticker Star are now essential in boss fights, rather than as a means to make them easier. And yes, I was probably just awful at not knowing which thing card to use before a boss fight, but most annoying of all These enemies and bosses just don't have any HP. I know it shows it by the amount of color remaining on an enemy, as weird as that sounds, but I need my numbers game. As strange as it is to confess, the Mario RPG games made me care about simple arithmetic in the first place, which is why this small change is so frustrating. 60. Mario Slam Basketball / Mario Hoops 3-on-3, depending on whatever version you have on this game, even though they're the same thing, just different titles. Anyways, this is the sole game on this list which I just cannot discuss my opinions of, nor waffle some mumbo jumbo. And that's probably because I've only played this for like an hour thinking it would be like the basketball mode in Sports Mix. And it kind of is, but the game uses some awkward stylus controls which aren't bad, but they just feel forced in. You could also say there's a lot of charm here, evident by the playable Final Fantasy characters, since Square Enix did make this game. However, this isn't the only Mario game with characters like that, so it's still not that special. I know it was released afterward, but I played Mario Slam Basketball straight after Sports Mix, with the intention that this would be a more fleshed out game. However, it pretty much is the same amount of content as only the basketball mode in Sports Mix. So even though there is a lot of charm here, there's a lot of charm in every other Mario sports game, so it doesn't really mean too much. 59. Mario Party DS. Once you realize which Mario Party I put above this, chaos will be unleashed. For me, the defining factor which elevates my enjoyment for Mario Party is that literally anyone can win at any given point in the game. Even if it's the very last turn and you're dead last, there is still hope, somehow. While this is true in Mario Party DS, the stakes of winning a board fall short of other Mario Party experiences for me. It's really hard to pinpoint why, but let's give an example of the items and compare them to Mario Party 6 for example. In that game, we have an epic spiny orb, which attacks a player with spinies, of course, who knew, causing them to lose 10 coins. In contrast, DS has its very own version of orbs called hexes, where one of these also makes a player lose 10 coins, but it ain't some cool spiny this time, just a boring 10 coin hex which slaps a player down. How original. I know this sounds really picky, but it sums up the only way I can justify why Mario Party DS is just okay for me, and not some sort of underrated gem, unlike other DS titles way lower on this list. Also, the minigames are pretty forgettable and kind of mid, the bosses are cool I guess, and the game made the funny anti-piracy screen mock-up used a few years back. 58. Mario and Sonic at the Rio 2016 Olympic Games. Despite the removal of dream events in prior games, it still feels more enjoyable by the addition of events like boxing and rugby, which are actually fun to play. However, it's still a Mario Sonic game, so overall there's a lot of minigames which I don't really care too much about. That's obvious considering the only Mario game on Switch I don't own happens to be Mario and Sonic 2020. And maybe it's the last Mario Sonic game they'll ever release. It also doesn't help that some events are literally just far inferior versions to their counterparts in Mario sports games. Like compare Mario Strikers to this game's football, it's pathetic. Although I must admit I would always play Equestrian in this game over the version in Mario Sports Superstars. That could also be because I once held 142nd in the world leaderboard for Equestrian in this game. But maybe that's only because 142 people were bothered to play that event, who knows. There's also this sort of cool hub world where you can unlock guest characters for specific events, like Nabbit for the 100-meter sprint, as well as Larry and Wendy, but not any of the other Koopalings? Guess everyone got annoyed they wasted 7 slots in Mario Kart 8, so it got cut down to 2. Rest in peace, Ludwig von Koopa. By the way, I've only played the Wii U version of this, but I'm sure the 3DS game wouldn't change the ranking, and the same goes for the next game as well. 57. Mario and Sonic at the London 2012 Olympic Games. Finally, the last Mario and Sonic game I have to talk about. These games are more painful to go through than the Mario vs Donkey Kong games, probably because some of the sports are literally the same between versions. Once again, I have only played the Wii version, so I don't think the 3DS version would carry it, but I haven't played it, so that's the thing. I'm sure there are some die-hard Mario and Sonic fans saying why this is absolute peak, and it is, for Mario and Sonic standards though. The vast number of Dream events compared to its predecessor definitely carry it, especially when you have stuff like Dream Space Walk where you're beating up Dino Piranha from Galaxy 2, or they even reference Yoshi's story of all things in Dream Long Jump. And there's still the issue of many of these events not really feeling worth it after playing it the first time, especially the regular events. However, this might be saved by the awesome London Party mode, and yeah, I don't really remember much of it. This was one of the first games I ever played, so I thought it would stand a good chance at a higher position, but apparently not. 56. Mario Tennis, the one with the 91 on Metacritic, for reasons I shall never understand. Maybe that was based on the stacked character roster of 60, especially in a time where Mario Party had only 6 and Mario Kart had 8. This marked the final proper appearance of Donkey Kong Jr. before becoming a cameo in a few titles like Mario 3 Remake and Mario Maker. On the bright side, Mario Tennis was our introduction to the beloved Waluigi, otherwise poor old Wario would have no doubles partner. Aside from characters, the modes other than the regular tournament or exhibition are really exciting, especially the Bowser stage where you can throw banana peels and use other power-ups like Mario Kart. If you have realized, I've avoided discussing the raw tennis gameplay offered here, and it's okay. Just try playing Aces or even Power Tour on the GBA, and it becomes obvious that this Mario Tennis just isn't as exciting. I know this was the first title, however I cannot give mercy for this game being devoid of any special shots. The cornerstone to what enhances the gameplay within the following titles. It's like a Mario Strikers game without any hyper strikes. Also, the controls are kind of clunky as well, but I guess that makes sense. Maybe I am just awful at Mario Tennis, but how does Power Tour, a game on the Game Boy Advance, not have clunky controls in the slightest? Regardless, I like Mario Tennis, but the other games make this title feel far less appealing to go back to. But please, tell me why this game is peak and somehow deserves a higher Metacritic score than Paper Mario the 1000-year door of all things. 55. Super Mario Kart. If you don't count the spin-off games of this already spin-off series that are Tour and Home Circuit, the worst one is still pretty solid, particularly as this was the first one, which demonstrates the extent Mario Kart has flourished over the years. There are 20 Nitro courses across 4 cups, which is more than the typical amount of Nitro courses in Mario Kart. However, there really are only 8 original courses, as we have 4 Mario Circuits, 3 Donut Plains, 3 Ghost Valleys, 3 Bowser Castles, 2 Koopa Beaches, 2 Chocolate Islands, 2 Vanilla Lakes, and 1 infamous Rainbow Road. Also, it's cool how they sort of reference Mario World with the whole Donut Plains. I know, I picked that one up just like that. So intuitive. And if that's the case, where is my Yoshi's Island course? Why did it take until a Deluxe booster pass for this to happen? Well, I guess that's referring to the game Yoshi's Island, not World 1, but anyways. What I will be picking on is the life system, which is trying to copy 2D Mario platformers. As if you come 5th place or lower, your beloved Mario character and their kart blow up, causing you to repeat the course like a 2D Mario level. Run out of lives and the Grand Prix is over. I can see the reason to mimic this source material, but this really just made the game tedious, particularly on 150cc, which is fairly difficult here. 54. Mario Party 9. It is time to say why this list is completely wrong, as Mario Party 9 is sitting in front of Mario Party DS and around 20 positions higher than Mario Party 10. They are literally the same game. But why does the highest viewed non-commentary Mario Party 10 video sit at 28 million? While Mario Party 9 has a video with 152 million views. Guess my opinion is in the majority after all? Yeah, definitely not. But we must mention the reason why this game is a stinker. The car. No more running around freely, everyone is stuck in a car, taking turns to move around a linear board which you cannot move around freely, and there are these dumb mini-stars instead. And they remove coins and regular starts and everything good about the original Mario Party games. However, I love these boss battles so much, and the minigame selection might be one of my favorite in the series, which is unfortunate because you can't play a minigame after every 10. And to be honest, the car mechanic is, yeah, I don't mind it too much. Only as it implements new forms of strategy in a series where every game felt so similar. But the uniqueness of 9 is sadly ruined by the existence of Mario Party 10. Despite that, the boards offered can also be ventured within a story mode, which gives some decent replay value since the total amount of mini-stars collected after 6 boards is recorded and compared to your other playthroughs. I feel that the fact the car mechanic is not the future of Mario Party allows me to appreciate what this game tried to do at least. Particularly the aspect of excitement in venturing through these boards alongside everyone playing, curious as to where the Mario Party gang is travelling to next. My favourite being the need to escape the volcano erupting in Magna Mine, which is ironic considering how slow the dumb, rusty, ugly car is moving at. Before I get persuaded why this game is garbage, I shall drive onward. That's all the love this car's ever gonna get. Neglection. 53. Super Mario Bros. Yes, it started it all, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna put it any higher to show some gratitude. In fact, this position demonstrates how far Mario games have evolved in quality gameplay over time. Even here, the controls work fairly well. They are a tad clunky, but not to an extent where I think it's my fault for falling down a pit or running into that Goomba in 1-1. And I'm sure you've done it as well, admit it. For someone who has spent minimal time experiencing this, somehow even lesser than the lost levels, probably because there weren't many re-attempts on a specific level, the ones offered here are very iconic due to their distinct qualities, whether it be Lakitu chasing you down in 4-1 or the infamous Hammer Bros sniping the poor plumber in 8-3. The power-ups, bosses and atmosphere of the levels are limited, which offers an element of charm, however makes it fall way short of competing against another 2D Mario game on the NES. 52. Mario Kart Super Circuit, the one with a 93 on Metacritic for reasons I shall never understand. I guess it's easy to say this is a superior game to Super Mario Kart since you can unlock its 20 courses, on top of the 20 Nitro courses offered here, which gives a grand total of 40 courses, which wasn't beaten until the Wii U DLC for Mario Kart 8. Although I never ended up unlocking the Super Mario Kart courses, but the Super Circuit ones are the highlights anyway, to a point where I wish some of these were reimagined in 3D. Is that a foreshadow I'm detecting? Sadly, the game over system is here again, but this will be its last appearance, and the movement of driving does feel slippery like Super Mario Kart, but I do slowly get used to it. However, unlike its predecessors, this game displays stats, but they seem a bit strange as the lightweight characters have the most speed, unlike later entries. Maybe that's because the acceleration stat was mistranslated as speed. Well, I guess Toad is still a slowpoke after all. 51. Super Mario Party, the one which everyone loved till Mario Party Superstars proved this experience is indeed a shallow one, as the boards don't feel as vast and adventurous like the previous games. Also, dices are only 1 to 6 instead of 1 to 10, and stars feel like freebies now since they're worth only 10 coins, not 20. Pair that up with purchasing a golden pipe for 10 coins, which are always for sale at certain shops. No matter your placement, you can get the cheapest victory every time now. Besides that, the minigames are decent, with some smartly using the Switch's HD rumble in ways that don't feel forced in. Side modes such as Soundstage and River Survival have a lot of effort put into them, although I wish this effort was actually put into the boards, you know? That could have been a possibility. But for its shortcomings, features such as the ally mechanic returning from Star Rush and the custom dice block for each character do provide some depth, which compensates for the simplified new feel. And what did I do to deserve being forced to use a single Joy-Con for the entire time? 50. Mario Party Star Rush. Even I get confused why I enjoyed this specific entry to the mediocre range of Mario Party 3DS games. It takes a unique spin on the Mario Party formula, which for once is executed fairly well by the concept of roaming around an open board in Toad Scramble, where spaces are grid-based, allowing for some interesting new depth. This involves the introduction of allies. Yes, they weren't first introduced in Super Mario Party, and so are the special dice blocks. Also, the amazing bosses are back and serve as a main way for the game to progress, by player landing on the boss space. and coins are converted to stars at the end of a board, making them more meaningful. The minigame selection here is fairly small, lacking any real standouts, which sort of makes Star Rush feel like the inverse of Mario Party 9, yet also through the bosses share similarities. I guess the hunger for minigames are sort of satisfied with the coinathlon mode, where you run across the board based on the number of coins collected from minigames. However, Balloon Bash is sadly also here and is literally just a minigame match mode from Top 100. Yes, that's what it's called. It's strange how as a side mode it receives 3 boards in Star Rush, but there's only 1 board in Top 100, yet that game uses it as a central game mode. Regardless, Toad Scramble is a surprising blast to play, which is what pushed this above the other handheld Mario Party installments. 49. Mario Kart 64. Why hasn't anyone mentioned how wonky the movement of racing is in this game? This could be another case of me just sucking, but I cannot stop randomly spinning out when playing on some courses. Especially something like Bowser's Castle, which feels even more like an obstacle course rather than something intended to race on. And it doesn't help that I can't even reverse in this game. I don't know how or why, but the frustration of this game both pulls it down yet somehow lifts it up. The obstacle course issue can also be seen as a positive since it allows these courses to feel as grand adventures with excitement gained from exploring aspects such as Peach's Castle on Royal Raceway, which sadly we can't do in Mario Kart 8, or racing on the tracks in Calamari Desert, which we can do in Mario Kart 8. I do really wish these places could have been properly explored in some sort of adventure mode like Diddy Kong Racing, but we still got a solid Mario Kart experience. 48. Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. I appreciate Sparks of Hope the same way I appreciate eating from an expensive restaurant. It all looks amazing, but once you start digging in, it feels miserable. It's hard to explain why. It could be because the grid-based battle system from the original game is removed. The lack of challenge in puzzles makes them feel more so time wasters, and the large areas offered here are just kind of meh. Like, there's no satisfaction of progression in Sparks of Hope in comparison to the linearity in Kingdom Battle, which sounds way more basic, yet was way more enjoyable. This game is the epitome of bigger not being better, which drags down a seemingly exciting adventure. Also, the Mario Galaxy theme appears to be really cool, but isn't that a little outdated? I know that's harsh, but imagine a new Mario and Luigi game being set amongst Piantas in Delfino Square. Actually, that sounds really amazing, but it would be pretty strange. Like an Odyssey theme would make sense, that's the most recent 3D Mario. Additionally, I just find the Sparks mechanic kind of pointless and makes the battle system even more confusing. Like, there isn't a battle where I'm saying, wow, I could have won this if I had an Aquanox Spark equipped. Seriously, nobody cares about some deformed Luma Rabbit mutation called Aquanox. Okay, maybe you do, and I deeply apologize to all admirers of Aquanox. 47. Mario Sports Mix. Is this really a controversial pick? No one but me probably likes Sports Mix, but it's not as bad as Mario Sports Superstars at all. That's probably because Superstars took 4 sports which should be fleshed out experiences and scrunched them together into one lacking any charm. Oh, and they also threw the sport with a horse inside as well. Don't know what that was all about. In contrast, Sports Mix takes basketball, hockey, volleyball, and dodgeball, sports which probably shouldn't be their standalone games. Like, I know Mario Hoops did happen, but the amount of content in Hoops is probably equivalent to the amount in the basketball mode in this game. So I think it works pretty well. And also it's kind of cool how they have this story mode thing where at the end you fight this grand behemoth king from Final Fantasy. It's probably not as cool as it sounds, but it's a nice touch. And also across the 4 sports, many courts do feel the same, but I guess it's fine considering all of them do feel distinct from one another. Anyway, it was a fun time for the few hours you play in Mario Sports Mix, whether it be with friends or alone like me. 46. Super Mario Bros. 35. Potential the video game. There could have been a Mario 2, Mario 3, Mario World, Mario Land, or even a new Super Mario Bros. Style of this. Yet, Nintendo sadly made Mario 35 no longer playable. This is literally Nintendo making the perfect sandwich and removing everything inside, leaving 2 stale slices of bread. The ability to add more enemies onto another player's screen and the concept of needing to keep gaining time to avoid death was genius, and made Super Mario Bros. Feel as fresh as the newest 2D Mario game. But that was New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe at the time, so maybe not too fresh. But this could have just been the fact that 90% of the levels I played in this game was literally just 1-1 and 1-2 on repeat. Seriously, there are 34 other levels out there. A way to randomize the levels more should have been implemented. Hey, at least I'm a certified 1-1 and 1-2 pro now. Despite that, Mario 35 is an overall solid experience everyone should play, especially for those who have never tried this game out before. 45. Fortune Street / Boom Street. You know I like Mario when I've 100% it and spent over 200 hours on Boom Street of all things. Possibly even 300. This might even be the longest Mario game to complete, with the How Long to Beat website saying it takes 73 hours. That is very impressive for an obscure Monopoly style game that takes aspects from the Mario and Dragon Quest series. Boom Street is all about capitalism, purchasing stocks in hopes to gain profit, and buying properties which you pray your opponents to land on. You can also get promotions by collecting a heart, spade, club, and diamond, then rushing straight back to the bank. The game has 18 boards in total, which laughs at the puny 6 boards a typical Mario Party game includes. The only thing pulling this down is the fact that all you do is just run around the board. There are only 4 minigames here which can be played when landing on an arcade space, and these are the saddest looking minigames I've ever seen. Still, I spent countless of hours on this game, way more than I'd like to admit. 44. Mario Strikers Battle League. Yeah, not putting this in F tier might be considered a crime in your neighborhood. Luckily I don't live there. There is more content stuffed in a McDonald's cheeseburger than this abomination of a game. Unfortunately, I have never played the other Mario Strikers, but it is so clear why this is an awful sequel. Aside from aesthetics, every stadium plays exactly the same, with 0 hazards, and that gritty style is drastically toned down, and so was the number of characters till free updates came around, and still, they are lesser characters than Strikers Charge. They initially didn't have someone like Daisy in the game, just to hype her up as a free update. That's like if Super Mario Wonder was announcing an update with a new playable character. It's Luigi! Wow, so exciting. So, just why do I find this game decent? Cause it's Mario Strikers. The controls are extremely fluid and perfectly timing a shot feels so satisfying. The chaos of bob-ombs blowing up, shells flying everywhere and electrocuting Toad till he begs for mercy is fantastic. The core gameplay is a blast to play, even if beside it there isn't too much to do. And ability to play Strikers with 8 people makes this an amazing multiplayer game for its sheer chaos, particularly as everyone feels equally skilled, while in Mario Kart it's just me coming first every time. That gets boring real quick. Battle League is a terrible sequel, but it isn't like Sticker Star completely ruining the battle system. Like, at least I didn't boot up Battle League and saw the chaotic soccer gameplay was replaced with lawn bowling. 43. Super Mario Maker. The hardest game to rank, which might be why it's in the middle. Mario Maker filled my and your childhood dreams to make Mario levels from scratch in a way which is nowhere near as difficult as making a proper game from scratch. You can make an amazing level in a matter of a few hours. It could even take a few minutes to create the Mario Maker level of your dreams. That is if your dreams are filled with dried up dog feces. Somehow, many create the latter when it comes to Mario Maker levels, surprisingly, which makes it really hard to find good levels, particularly when playing something like the 100 Mario Challenge, where you complete randomly generated levels of a specific difficulty. Even when selected manually, I always feel like it's harder to find good levels here than in Mario Maker 2, which does have garbage levels indeed, however it's easier to find the amazing ones. On the positive side, the original game does have 153 costumes for the Mystery Mushroom power-up, with references ranging from the Mario franchise, other Nintendo IPs, and costumes beyond Nintendo's scope. They even got Shaun the Sheep in here. How was this possible? 42. Mario Kart Double Dash. Team up for twice the fun, the box art courageously states. How can this be fun if you flip the L on Luigi's cap? I never understood what was so exciting about two characters in the same car, besides the ability to carry two items, which is in 8 Deluxe anyway. The special items in Double Dash have only reappeared in Tour, so I guess that's something, and it would be a cool feature to bring back. Keep in mind, this is the only Mario Kart I haven't poured countless hours into, but these controls just don't feel right to me. There are only 16 courses here, but stuff like Waluigi Stadium, DK Mountain, Warrior Coliseum and so much more are incredible to play on. This also is the first game where customizing karts is possible, which is obviously a welcome stay. The battle mode now includes Shine Thief, where you try to hoard the Shine Sprite, and Bob-omb Blast, which by the name is an obvious blast to play. I never held this Mario Kart dearly, especially by hearing that the Double Dash mechanic is absolute peak Mario Kart and must return. However, I must admit this is still a solid title and was the best in the series when it first released. 41. Mario vs Donkey Kong. This ranking was written at the very start of 2024, before the remake was released, so I'm just basing this off of the original game. And wow, I should have played this way earlier, because I thought every Mario vs Donkey Kong game felt all too similar. This is actually an enjoyable puzzle platformer with fluid controls, and is way more fast paced than the mini Mario shenanigans within the sequels. It is a fairly short game with bite-sized levels which can be completed in a minute. However, the difficulty of this game allows the runtime to be longer because of the constant deaths. However, it does allow for a satisfying win whenever you do complete a level. 40. New Super Mario Bros. 2, the one with the coins. Every new Super Mario Bros. Game may look the same, yet this one always feels way worse. Maybe it's because this is the title which is the least original the franchise has in one which is renowned for unoriginality. Also, the new flying power-up introduced here was Raccoon Mario, and don't fool me game, I know that's the same power-up from Mario 3. And Reznor is now the new reoccurring mini-boss, which, if I might say so myself, is truly an original addition that keeps this franchise fresh. Still, it's a 2D Mario platformer which I cannot deny consists of enjoyable levels, even if it's a standard grass, desert and lava nonsense. The fact that they try to combine the tropical and forest themes as well as the sky and mountain just goes to show they knew this formula was getting a teensy bit tiresome. I do have to give credit that World Mushroom and Flower feel like optional worlds rather than what was done in DS, where worlds which seemed to be a part of the base game were locked behind beating a boss as Mini Mario. Anyways, if you love capitalism but don't have Boom Street, this is the next best game for you. 39. Mario Tennis Power Tour, the RPG style tennis game with an overworld which wasn't as impressive as I'd imagined. I don't know why I was expecting something like a Mario and Luigi game, as this is a tennis game after all. But where's Mario? For the entire story mode, you control either the default male or female protagonist and participate in a bunch of tennis matches, again and again, until you become the very best. Then you get invited to a special tournament where you personally beat up Mario himself, who is some sort of tennis champion, because he has to just be good at everything possible. Despite the gameplay being tennis, I somewhat get Pokemon vibes when playing this, with the whole story of some random dude becoming the best tennis player ever. However, it does get really tiresome that all you do is just keep playing tennis matches, which take ages to complete, particularly at the end where the game gets fairly challenging. If it wasn't for the super cool looking power shots, as the title implies, with Power Tour, these later matches will go on for an eternity, as the rally just never ends. There are a lot of enjoyable minigames to take part in alongside this adventure, which does supplement the repetitive tennis matches, but it's really strange how majority of them don't have anything to do with tennis. Like there's wall practice and tennis machine, but then the rest are stuff like bicep pump and tackle bot. Don't know what was going on there. The stranger part is that these minigames are actually way more enjoyable than the tennis-based ones. Although I wish they were somehow intertwined in the core story mode like Mario and Luigi games, rather than some disconnected side mode. Also, why did they not just use the overworld sprite within the tennis matches, because yikes, do the semi 3D models look outdated. 38. Mario & Luigi Paper Jam, aka New Super Mario Bros. RPG Edition I like to call it, as it's fortunate enough to stick to the classic battle system and overworld mechanics of the Mario & Luigi series, unlike another Mario RPG series. And the introduction to Paper Mario, speaking of, adds an extra layer of depth as you have to multitask 3 characters sometime in bosses, rather than just Mario and Luigi or just Paper Mario. But of course, sadly, the areas you traverse throughout the adventure have to be the most forgettable and bland places ever. Don't pretend that you remember what Doop Doop Dunes is of all things. I do appreciate that Paper Jam did attempt to differentiate itself, as it replaced the badge system with battle cards and giant bosses with papercraft battles, but both of these just aren't as good. One thing which could have worked were the Paper Toad quests, which sounds like an enjoyable concept, until you realize how many of them there are. Despite the negativity, the worst of Mario & Luigi is far superior to the worst of Paper Mario, as it's still a fun time. But wait on a second, you're saying I can't increase a specific stat when leveling up anymore? Okay, this game really stinks. 37. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. From a critical point of view, this cute puzzle platformer starring the most disturbing Mario character there is, doesn't have any apparent issues. It takes the beloved Captain Toad levels from 3D World and transforms it into a grand adventure. Yeah, I didn't really like those levels, only as it interrupted the game's fast-paced style. However, as a standalone game, these puzzles are a fun time, and the camera isn't as annoying as before, or maybe that's just me. I'm not putting this any higher though, because it is just a fun time. It's not some massive 3D Mario adventure, and of course it isn't trying to be that. Plus, it helps that only one of these do exist. Maybe if there were 4 other Captain Toad games, like the new Super Mario Bros. Series, we'd be having a completely different conversation here. 36. Mario Party 8. The Wii was the best possible time to pump out as many Mario Party games as possible to be devoured by casual fans, potentially to a quantity even greater than the 4 Mario Parties on the GameCube. But instead, we got Mario Party 9, which looks like something on the Wii U, and Mario Party 8, which was meant to be for the GameCube, until the Wii remote waggled into our lives. And this thing screwed with so many minigames which were obviously not intended for motion controls. You know these changes were done last minute, as beside the title screen the entire game is in a 4:3 aspect ratio. At least the minigames do have an excuse, but then there's Goomba Booty Boardwalk, the one which is literally a straight line. And don't fool me, Mario Party 8, I know Shy Guy's Perplex Express and Bowser's Warped Orbit are basically straight lines as well, meaning only half of the boards offered allow for the player to pick branching parts. That is if you exclude the small split parts on the Bowser board, but you don't really have a choice in which way you want to go. Although, this game does hold the best board in any Mario Party game to date, Koopa's Tycoon Town. This alone lifted Mario Party 8 to 10 slots higher than it should definitely deserve to be. Essentially, you go around investing coins into hotels, and if you invested the most coins out of everyone, the hotel is yours. This initially earns you 1 star, but if over 20 coins are invested, 2 stars, and for investing over 50 coins, you obtain 3 stars. Pure genius. 35. Paper Mario the Origami King. If you can't make a turn-based battle system as fun as the original games, then just make the combat in the overworld like Super Paper Mario. Especially when this new ring battle system mechanic tends to reuse its various patterns, making the puzzle solving aspect feel repetitive and pointless. The biggest tragedy here is that the overworld battles and boss fights do exist and are a joy to play, however their presence is fairly scarce. If these paper mache battles, or whatever you call them, completely replace these ring battles, then this would be a far more enjoyable experience. As for the first time in modern Paper Mario, we have a large overworld that isn't separated into some new Super Mario Bros. World map.
Areas like Shogun Studios and Sniff City are both breathtaking to look at and traverse through, even if the characters which inhabit these places are just generic enemies. And yes, there are still way too many toads in this game, with even a massive side quest requiring you to find 404 toads in total. There's over 4 times of these guys than the total amount of gold sculptors in Ocarina of Time. Even though the toad issue drags down Color Splash and Sticker Star for me, the overworld is so immersive here that I don't really care anymore. What I do care about is how shallow the number of weapons are in this game, and this amount somehow still feels pointless. This is because the bosses, the ones who you should use your strongest weapons on, are mainly attacked using the 1000 fold arms instead, which deal way more damage anyway. And guess what? The 1000 fold arms are super satisfying to use, and the way they reverse the ring battles for bosses is actually far more enjoyable than the regular enemies. Despite the need to return to the original Paper Mario form, the subtle aspects Origami King borrows from it, like the semi-attempt to bring back partners and sticking to turn-based battles rather than overworld combat, is actually what drags down a surprisingly great game. 34. Mario Party Superstars. The true return to form that Super Mario Party didn't fully live up to, and what should have been the top 100, as Superstar actually has a lot of minigames we like Mushroom Mix-Up and Dungeon Duos, which weren't in the top 100 for some reason. We also got 4 amazing boards and Peach's Birthday Cake, which somehow has a 3 out of 5 star difficulty, while Yoshi's Tropica Island is a 1 out of 5 star difficulty, even though in the original they were both 2 out of 3. Yeah, I don't know what was happening there. Anyways, the movement across these boards are way faster, especially as you move really slowly in the original first 2 Mario Parties. And the various cutscenes within boards can be sped up, which is of course a welcome addition. What isn't is that there are only 10 playable characters, half of the amount in Super Mario Party. You can say some couldn't be playable, like Bowser, Boo, Koopa, and Bowser Jr., who of course replaced poor Koopa Kid, who no one remembers anymore. However, there are plenty of characters which could have still been added, like of course poor old Dry Bones. And I thought this would happen in free updates later on, if not maybe an extra board, but I guess that never happened. Anyways, if you want a good version of Top 100 or a good Mario game whose title ends in Superstars, this should be an exciting time. 33. Super Paper Mario. The first Paper Mario ever played, and my very first Wii game as well. But not the first one I played for countless hours, as I never got past Chapter 2 because Mimi hunting you down was very terrifying. And the extensive amount of text was excruciating for my poor little brain. Then I picked this up several years later and of course loved it so much. The incredible story of Count Bleck, dark themes which include Mario being sent to the literal version of hell, and the distinct characters and areas throughout the adventure, whether it be a samurai tournament or space shooter. There will never be another Mario game like this, which is why it's so high up on the list. Wait, I didn't even put this in the top 30. This is a crime. Like Origami King, there are some glaring issues, particularly the amusing concept of this being one of the darkest, yet one of the easiest Mario games I've ever played. And yes, Mario RPGs are usually on the easier side, but this is a literal joke. The final boss is so hyped up by incredible dialogue, and then I beat it in under 30 seconds. What was going on here? The main culprit for these extremely easy fights could fall under King Koopa himself, who does double the damage and the range of his fire is ridiculous. So just don't use Bowser, right? It still took a minute to plow through the final boss with Mario. The issue is these bosses are almost always vulnerable to attacks, meaning you can spam hits and get the job done real quick. This is tragic considering bosses have cool attacks like the legendary O-Chunks, swinging Mario around in return for giving Bowser motion sickness in Mario 64. There's also the flipping between 2D and 3D gimmick, which has its moments I guess, and gives you an excuse to keep switching back to Mario. But this was the game's selling point, So every character should have had this ability, and maybe, I don't know, toss Mario a hammer so there's still a reason to play as him. Also, the flipping does make for an amazing boss in Fractale, which you can't defeat in less than a minute. Wow, that's an achievement. I wish every boss was like this and took advantage of the flipping mechanic. Maybe I'm too harsh, but if this single problem was fixed, this could have easily been in the top 20. 32. Mario Party. A controversial take, but I don't believe this to be the most unfair Mario Party experience, as everyone gets screwed over equally. One moment you may be in a pin getting knocked down, causing you to lose coins, and then Bowser's chance time happens and your twisted friend who threw that shell in the minigame is forced to pay up now. For me, this makes it not unfair as its sequel, but the Mario Party which ruins friendships. This game not only hurts you mentally, but physically, as some minigames are infamous for making you rotate the control stick so fast that it can cause very innocent children to get very serious blisters. This caused Nintendo to send free gloves to everyone who owned the game at the time. I'm sure many of you know that already, but it's just fascinating to point out how brutal a light-hearted Mario Party can get. Anyways, the boards are decent, with some being a bit too linear for my liking, yet far better than whatever Booty Boardwalk was from Mario Party 8. The 4-player minigames are amazing and pose some high stakes to win a Bowser minigame, especially as a tie can even result in everyone losing coins. Yeah, that's pretty harsh. Was this game even meant for children? The 1v3 minigames are very unbalanced. One literally involves everyone attacking a player in a Bowser suit to squeeze every single penny off of them. And there's only 5 2v2 minigames, Handcar Havoc being one I still can never understand the controls of. There are 1-player minigames as well, which just lengthen the typical runtime of a game, and I see why they haven't been in later editions of Mario Party. Even though I am lonely with no one to play this game with, it was still a fun time with my imaginary friends, i.e. the CPUs. And it is truly incredible how messed up Mario Party 1 is, and yet at the same time delivers a fairly solid experience. 31. Mario Party 2. While it may not capture the brutality of the first game, there's so many new additions which are the cornerstones to the Mario Party experience. The adrenaline that stimulates from a battle minigame or wagering all your coins on a duel are reasons why this is a more unfair Mario Party experience for me. Even landing on a random space may reward you with a hidden block, granting you 20 coins or even a star just out of nowhere. Also, items are properly introduced here rather than the random blocks you receive in the first Mario Party. These items add a shocking level of strategy in a series renowned for its luck. I still don't understand how they went from the legendary skeleton key to a 10 coin hex in Mario Party DS. The boards offered here are themed on specific genres like space and horror, which sounds cool because it is very cool. Traversing through these feel like an adventure, which is enhanced by the winning character annihilating the heck out of Bowser at the end. Even though this is an incredible sequel, it's not the best Mario Party has to offer for me, as every board is just rushing to the start as fast as possible. There isn't any standout like Koopa's Tycoon Town here, and that's perfectly fine as the boards are consistent. There isn't anything which is pretty bad. In terms of the minigames, a lot of them are reskins from the first game, but the new and old ones are still a fun time, but not the best in the series has to offer. Especially because Sneak and Snore sadly exists. 30. Super Princess Peach. I've somehow beaten this game 4 times despite how obscure the title is. The DS is the only console which I played every single Mario game on, and I would say the same for the Switch if it wasn't for Mario and Sonic 2020. Out of the DS's forgotten titles from Mario Hoops to March of the Minis, the only one which stuck out to me was the Peach game. You could say it's because the immersion gimmick raised a few eyebrows, however I didn't notice that when I first played the game. I just saw this as a unique platform which solves many issues I had with the new Super Mario Bros. Series. The bosses have wacky gimmicks like needing to cry into Petey Piranha's mouth, which is far better than stomping on a Koopaling 3 times. Also, the coins are actually useful. You thought Odyssey was the first game to do that, but Super Princess Peach did it over 10 years earlier. And step aside Cappy, because Perry the Parasol is just as epic. 29. New Super Mario Bros. Wii. We all love to talk smack about how the new series is far from what the title implies. Although, there's something so satisfying about rushing through these 2D side-scrollers, trying to collect every star coin and exploiting the game's new overpowered flying power-up. When put next to something like DK Returns, this looks atrocious. Playing this right after New Super Mario Bros. Title is like eating a Big Mac right after you stuffed a Whopper in your stomach. But it's New Super Mario Bros. Wii. I couldn't keep smiling throughout the entire experience. The level design may look bland, but playing it is somehow a blast, and I still cannot seem to justify the reason why. 28. Mario Party 6. It might be because I've never played 5 or 7, which practically look the same but without the day and night mechanic. However, this is probably the best Mario Party we'll ever get. A typically 7 out of 10 game series having one game with an 8 out of 10 is quite the achievement. This is largely due to many boards feeling distinct from one another. You can note the first two are just a typical rush to the star space mechanic, but then there's Fair Square where the cost of the star varies from 5 to 40 coins at night, Snowflake Lake where everyone starts with 5 stars and the goal is to use chain chomps to steal them, and Clockwork Castle where you're either chasing down DK or scurrying away from Bowser. Also, Castaway Bay is just a better Mario's Rainbow Ride. Not an original concept, but it limits my issue of every board being a race to the start. And of course, that gimmick is what defines Mario Party. But we had 5 games before this using the same exact formula, so it got really repetitive. The minigames may not be as good as other GameCube titles like Mario Party 4, but Snow World, What Goes Up and Rocky Road all together lays the groundwork for a fantastic collection. And I could be wrong about this, but the 1v3 minigames are surprisingly balanced in this title. However, maybe that's just me. And finally, mic minigames are such a cool idea, but I don't have a GameCube mic, so I've never played them. Besides, the mic minigame titled Verbal Assault sounds terrifying to me. 27. Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. Unlike Sparks of Hope, this game wasn't so boring that I had to stop playing. In fact, the grid-based battle system is amazing and leads to some pretty tough bosses which work well with the challenging overworld puzzles. And I may or may not have used a walkthrough to solve some of those. The only reason why Sparks of Hope was disappointing for me is because of how good Kingdom Battle was. It took a crossover, which I'm sure you've heard 1,000 of times, would have never worked, yet miraculously exceeded our expectations. And also, Kingdom Battle is more on the linear side, however I do prefer it, since it doesn't make the game too confusing as I'm aware of what my next objective is. There's also DK DLC which I've never played, and maybe that shows I really never wanted more content from Mario Rabbids, and I just enjoyed it as a one-off title. That does come to my only problem with this game is that the gameplay isn't really my thing, especially when compared to the other Mario RPG games. But by taking that into consideration, this game does a great job in making me still enjoy this type of gameplay which I otherwise would have never been fond of. 26. Mario & Luigi Dream Team. Insert complaint that there are too many tutorials, and insert another complaint that the game is way too long. The areas ranging from Mushroom Park to Mount Pajama Jama are extremely unique though, like any other Mario & Luigi experience, beside Paper Jam, and this engagement is elevated by the entire Dream theme. Yet, this is also the game's downfall, as every area in the Dream World, beside Dream's Deep, is just a counterpart to its location in the real world. So once you beat Mushrise Park, you then need to play through all of Dreamy Mushrise Park as well, making these areas overstay their welcome a lot. I can see why this was done, but I would have preferred completely different areas in the Dream World. Fortunately, the combat with Dreamy Mario is a blast, even if I still stink at timing moves like the Luiginary stack. It's even better in the real world with Bros attacks, like the Drop Chopper taking advantage of a new perspective because oh look, they finally discovered that the Z-axis exists. This is also adopted by some of the attacks bosses use both in the real and Dreamy world, allowing for moves which are more difficult to dodge and just look more exciting. Giant battles also return, which look amazing in glorious 3D. But I still hate the Z-Keeper so much, and nobody can prove me otherwise. Dream Team likes to make use of the 3DS gyro controls, which are alright for the bros attacks, but it is shockingly awful for the Z-Keeper fight and the end of the giant Bowser battle. I literally couldn't beat this game on my first playthrough after spending a week on that puke rainbow bird. And it doesn't help that each attempt takes at least 10 minutes, way longer than a typical boss fight. Maybe it's a petty thing to drag Dream Team down for this, but I just don't like this at all. However, it's still better than most of the Paper Mario games. Also, I forgot to insert, did you know this game was made to celebrate the year of Luigi in 2013? Even though its release may have just been a complete coincidence. 25. Mario Kart 7. More of a forgettable title than an underrated one, as everyone knows that this is another great karting experience. But then again, who played this after Mario Kart 8? Unless you don't have a Wii U, then I should reiterate, why would you play this after 8 Deluxe? I'd be impressed if you even touched the game cartridge. Regardless, Mario Kart 7 brought the best new gimmick to this franchise, which was Honey Queen. As everyone who played the Galaxy games love Honey Queen so much that this B was added instead of our beloved Waluigi. Beside the downgrade in roster, characters within the same weight class now have the same exact stats. But at least there are 5 weight classes now. And where's the versus mode at? And out of all of the amazing Mario Kart DS battle stages, you bring back Palm Shore? Besides petty criticism, we got a good Mario Kart with what could possibly be the best track selection this series has ever seen. The Woohoo Island courses, Melody Motorway / Music Park, and the best Rainbow Road ever made are only a taste of what these Nitro courses entail. And Toad Circuit is here. No comments on that. Also, hooray, there isn't any lackluster retro courses anymore. Possibly besides Mario Circuit 2, but they got the cool gliding section, so I'll give it a pass. And I cannot forget about the true new gimmick in this game, which is driving underwater and gliding, which is amazing and supplements for the tricks not being as satisfying as Mario Kart Wii. Sure, this isn't the best Mario Kart, but it's still a great game, although with some questionable decisions. Like, I still don't know why they had the first person camera with those pesky gyro controls. I still don't know anyone who has used that to this day. 24. New Super Mario Bros. DS. The words you say to evoke a sense of tranquility or danger to someone. That depends on whether they fear the imprecation the series has brought upon humanity, or if they see it as a fun, totally harmless 2D side-scroller. But looking at this game closely, there are some issues which arise in later games that aren't present here. Most notably, the bosses are original, with Mummy Pokey and Lacquer Thunder sounding far more impressive than the Koopalings. Then there's the one with the giant Goomba. It's actually pretty good. What's not is the anticlimactic final boss. It's a typical Super Mario Bros. Style boss, but with a switch instead of an axe, and Bowser Jr. is here because we haven't seen enough of him in every single tower level. This still isn't a huge deal, as the other bosses are some of the best the series has to offer. Plus, it's a fun challenge to beat some of them as Mini Mario to unlock an entire world. However, like I said in New Super Mario Bros. 2, I find it strange that Worlds 4 and 7 are completely locked in this game behind such a specific task. It would be fine if there are bonus worlds, but this feels like just more regular levels. Anyways, that's more of a 5-year-old me problem who couldn't complete bosses with the mini mushroom, nor even knew that unlocked an entirely different world. The level design is so compact with details more than its Wii counterpart, which feel more so empty, probably because 4-player wouldn't be possible if they were compact. And to this day, I will always love the World 5's snow theme and despise the World 2's desert theme. 23. Mario Tennis Aces. Welcome to another controversial pick where I shall justify why Mario Tennis Aces is actually peak, even if there are hardly any side modes to offer. But wait, there's 30 characters and none of them are baby clones or Mario and Peach but now with the power? However, Dr. Mario is such a missed opportunity. You can argue the roster did only start out with 16, not even including Dry Bones. How was this legal? But they kept pumping out a new character each month, and when compared to the other Mario sports titles on Switch, you're not so bad, Aces. In fact, you're far from it, as these controls are extremely precise and fluid. The movement, hitting a shot, and going for a trick are phenomenal, with the use of a gorge allowing for a surprising depth of strategy here. You're always trying to stop your opponent from having enough gorge to block a special shot or use a trick shot / slow down time to hit the ball back. And if you are Mario Tennis Pro, using a trick shot early on will increase your gorge rather than reduce it. And yes, it is time to say, wait, isn't this like a fighting game? Also, that could be because you lose rackets, kinda like how you lose stocks in Smash, and that happens in Mario Tennis by mistiming a zone or special shot. The core gameplay is so sophisticated for just a Mario Tennis game, and that's why aces should never be treated like Super Rush nor Battle League. When this game came out, it wasn't even mocked extensively, but later on it was just used as another piece of evidence that showed that Mario sports games have turned stale since the Switch. Seriously, did you just all forget Ultra Smash exists? The campaign isn't like Power Tour, sure, and that may make aces not seem as good. However, the excellent bosses and various missions allows the campaign to not feel like a bunch of tennis matches in a row, which was a huge problem for Power Tour for me. Yes, there were exciting minigames, but they had nothing to do with the main plot. Also, having Mario in the campaign will probably sell better than some random protagonist, so I can see the reason why they chose not to do that. Plus, Mario Tennis Open is a handheld 3DS game, which didn't even try to have a campaign. 22. New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. Now that we know this isn't the future of 2D Mario, we can appreciate the times of playing New Super Mario Bros. But why is this the best game for me? Why is cookies and cream my favorite ice cream flavor? They both taste the best, especially as the titles of each world are based on something sweet, whether that be Layer Cake Desert or even Peach's Castle. Anyways, the level design doesn't feel empty like Wii and has a better flying power up in my opinion with the Super Acorn. When compared to why it's better than the handheld games, I really got nothing. It could be because the levels are of a larger scale while still possessing the same number of little secrets which are scattered around in something you'd see in DS. But let's just say, if I did a ranking on every single New Super Mario Bros. Level, a large proportion of the better levels will be from this game. Also, Luigi U is a thing added for the year of, you guessed it, Luigi, and it's a pretty fun time. They are semi-challenging levels which are really short as you're only given a 100-second timer. But the true challenge lies in the challenge mode, who could have guessed, which single-handedly doubled the game's playtime in the best way possible, from trying to beat a level as fast as you can in time attack or by completing the very special challenges. I guess I'll use this mode as my excuse to justify why this is my favorite in the series. Also, the deluxe version does have Peach and nothing else, but for me it was still worth it cause I had never played Luigi U prior to this. 21. Super Mario 3D Land. Were you complaining that the restriction to 8 directions in Mario 64 DS made the game so frustrating to play? Well, it's time to make a linear 3D platformer game instead, which does look as bland as the new Super Mario Bros. Games, but is a more exciting experience, as you can now fight Boom Boom in 3D. I've always dreamed for this moment for so long. It is a bit strange that the levels in each world vary in themes rather than sticking to the all grass or all snow. However, it was a good change for the time and allowed for each level to feel more different from one another. Although because of that I can hardly name any of these levels at all. Guess that was a problem in the new Super Mario Bros. Games anyway. Unfortunately, beating the main 8 worlds is incredibly short, although there are 8 special worlds to complete as well, but many of them feel all too similar to the regular levels in the base game. However, all in all, it's still a ton of fun to play this game, even if there isn't anything mind-blowing that is offered. 20, we got Super Mario Maker 2. Making levels, but this time around, I'm not getting frustrated that there's so much I can't do. Nintendo made this very clear by featuring the ability to make slopes in the opening cutscene of the game's first trailer. The beloved Amiibo costumes are cut in this title. You will be missed, Shaun the Sheep. Yet, Mario Maker 2 rectifies many issues I had with the first game. Of course, there is a campaign this time around, which is just levels made by Nintendo in the Mario Maker engine. But it allows newcomers to get a hang of the game before starting to play the torture bestowed upon them. Sadly, there are of course a ton of not very good levels out there, But in comparison to the first game, I find it easier to search up good levels, or maybe that's just my luck. Another issue with the first game is the lack of co-op modes, which are here this time around with the fun multiplayer co-op and versus. That's what I would say if these modes didn't run at 2 FPS more frequently than it should, although maybe that's just an internet issue on my end. Whether it be creating or playing other levels, Mario Maker 2 was so good to a point where I thought we'd never see another new 2D Mario game, as Nintendo has just made us the new level creators. But now, I see it as a catalyst for killing off the new Super Mario Bros. Series and crafting something wonderful. 19. Mario Kart Wii. I despised this game at first because the Wii wheel felt terrible to use when drifting, especially after spending hundreds of hours within Mario Kart DS beforehand. A few years after, I did get a Classic Controller Pro to play Virtual Console games from the Wii Shop channel, and then I thought, wait, this could work for Mario Kart Wii! And yes it does. The constant ramps and half pipes you trick off in this game are so satisfying, and something Mario Kart 7 nor 8 could capture as effectively. Another thing Mario Kart Wii has over 8 is that the inside drifting bikes feel so tight to control, especially the Bullet Bike, Mach Bike, and the very iconic Flame Runner, also known as a Bowser Bike. And I know everyone loves some funky Flame Runner races, but Dry Bones with the Bullet Bike will always hold a special place with me. The insane bikes carry this game just as much as the amazing new courses like Coconut Mall, Cooper Cape, and the beloved Toad's Factory, which 8 Deluxe has unfortunately forgotten about. The retro courses do have some great picks, such as DS Delfino Square and GCN DK Mountain. However, there are a few stinkers, like N64 Sherbetland and SNES Mario Circuit 3. However, this could be a result of retro courses remaining faithful to their original counterpart, meaning if the course used to suck, it still sucks! And the battle mode, a highly appreciated part of 64, Double Dash, and DS, is now very mid, as they just had to add a timer on Balloon Battle instead of just making it elimination. Also, many of the new stages are way too open for my liking, and beside the incredible DS Twilight House, the retro stages weren't the best choices. Like, did they seriously have to remove Block Fort to make way for Block Plaza? I'm probably just being too picky now. You know how high this game ranks on the list, as it has some of the most enjoyable, yet trauma-inducing Mario Kart experiences to date. 18. Luigi's Mansion 3. It is truly disappointing how I had not played a single Luigi's Mansion game before this came out, because this is a work of art, which Mario seems to be trapped behind. At least I'll have an opportunity to pick up the Dark Moon remake later this year, now blandly called Luigi's Mansion 2, because numerals have become the new trendy sequel name. The central aspect of this game which made me interested was violently slamming ghosts back and forth, which might be one of the most satisfying aspects of a Mario game to date. Sure, the game is a total scam now, as Luigi traverses through a hotel, not a mansion as the title implies. This does make for a more linear playthrough, since each floor serves as a different area which you defeat the boss and move on. However, this allows each floor to feel very memorable from one another, as 1 minute you're in a medieval castle and then all of a sudden you're in a film studio. This might be because I've never played another Luigi's Mansion, but this game can be filled with some surprising challenges, which is undoubtedly true when facing King Boo at the end. And if you are still itching for more after beating this fairly short experience, there are the various Scream Park minigames and Scarescraper, one of the most underrated multiplayer experiences. How did they make a simple game of sucking a certain number of ghosts in time into a literal masterpiece? And finally, this game got the epic Luigi, used to solve various puzzles throughout the adventure, as no one else was willing to help Luigi, besides a clone of himself. I'm sure Waluigi could have set aside his differences to help Luigi on his quest to save Mario, as he's never gonna show up in a new Wario game anytime soon. 17. Super Mario World. I've never been a huge fan of Mario World. I've never been a huge fan of drinking water either. Still, I need both of these to survive, probably one way more than another. I'm sure probably you watching this video right now are raging at me for not putting this at number 1, and not even in the top 10. Unfortunately, I don't look at Mario World and take a deep breath saying, this is the best video game I've ever played. It's hard to pinpoint the reason why. The level design is superb, and the abundance of secret exits is the most of any mainline Mario game. This paired with a Star World and Special Zone are ways to satisfy veteran players while newcomers are not required to find these secret exits, aside from the Forest of Illusion, that is. I never got past that world the first time I played Mario World a decade ago, and it still embarrasses me till this very day. I don't know why, but there isn't any core aspect of the gameplay which struck me in wonder. Yoshi is here for the first time after being scrapped in Mario 1, although I've seen enough of this dinosaur that it ain't a selling point for me any longer. The same goes for the Cape Feather, which is extremely fun to use once you get the hang of its controls, although many flying power-ups have been seen in many other Mario games since this. So pretty much, later installments have made Mario World not as perfect as it once was. However, it still maintains being an excellent 2D platformer. 16. Super Mario RPG. I love how when this game was announced, everyone was hyped over the greatest Mario RPG game getting a remake. Then the Thousand Year Door got announced to have a remake, and now everyone remembered that that is a true greatest Mario RPG ever. Now all I hope for is a color splash switch port to see if everyone says no, this is the best Mario RPG game to have ever existed. Whether it be the SNES or Switch version, the game is a total rollercoaster with some of the wackiest bosses and enemies, alongside Geno, the coolest character which Mario has ever journeyed along. Oh, and Mallow is here as well. Like Super Mario World, there are dozens of secrets here, but this time in the form of strong weapons like the Lazy Shell, cool Easter eggs of Link and Samus both sleeping in random beds in the adventure, and that annoying frog coin that can be missed if you have poor toad jumping skills like me. Thankfully, this can be collected later on in the remake. Somehow, the remake does retain all the original charm within the game's dialogue, with only a few disappointments like the removal of the Bruce Lee reference, or the fact that the legendary Frog Fuchsius is now just a lame frog sage. The combat offered here is not as insane as the Mario & Luigi and the original Paper Mario games, since the time presses feel tacked on at times with a random A just pressed out of nowhere. However, this was their first attempt, and these battles are still highlights of the game. Another strange aspect is I often find my regular weapons doing more damage than my special attacks. And special attacks cost flower points, so these should be doing more damage. This could be a result of the physical and magic split in the stats in this game, but that's just speculation. Enough whining though, this is incredible Mario RPG which set the bar high for future installments. 15. Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I wonder if this game plays as good as it looks. I wonder if this game deserves the praise it received upon release. I wonder if I'll ever stop making these cliche jokes. You've probably heard that this is the best 2D Mario since World. I would have said this is the best 2D Mario since New Super Mario Bros. DS. That is if it didn't get 3 other sequels. What can I really say that hasn't been said about this game? The bosses are lackluster, with some worlds not even having one. We're sadly back to Bowser Jr. and only Bowser Jr. till the final boss, which is actually perfect. The final boss is amazing, but makes it all the more painful that there isn't any other bosses like this. That might be a big issue, but there isn't any other notable shortcomings in Wonder. Even if the Wonder effect, the game's main selling point, which makes every level so distinct from one another, was entirely removed, the level design is so fresh that this still would have been one of the best 2D platformers. Mario Wonder may even be as grand as a 3D Mario game, as even though its controls are far simpler, its ambition is off the charts. 14. Mario Kart DS. I shed a tear every time I see this near the bottom of a Mario Kart ranking. Just looking at Mario's slick moves on the game's box art, you already know you're in for a treat. This was my very first Mario Kart game I played at the age of 4, so this means nothing at all, because you don't see me praising Defending the Penguin nor Garfield Gets Real on the DS anytime soon. Other than the outstanding new Nitro courses in Waluigi Pinball, probably seen as the best Mario Kart course ever, there are a few features in this game which I'm shocked have never returned to mainline Mario Kart. Say mainline because Mission Mode is in Tour, but it's never been in another game besides DS. Also, there is the feature where you can create your own emblem, which is a cool thing, yet sort of forgettable. and this is the last game where balloon battle is played in an elimination style. The final aspect I love about DS is that Rob, of all things, is a playable character, even before making his debut in Smash. And even if Rob and Yoshi were some of my favorites, they did not stand a chance against Dry Bones with the Dry Bomber. I find it insane that this was my favorite combo before even knowing that this was one of the best combos in the game. However, I should have seen it coming, as I always pick the lightest possible character and kart in every Mario Kart game, excluding Wii that is. If you play this game, there is one word describing this best combo: snaking. You can say it's hard to master, but at the age of 5, I could non-stop just snake across each course. To be fair, I couldn't snake well if I wasn't using the Dry Bomber or Egg 1 karts, and I couldn't snake for the entire race on most tracks. Yet this didn't stop me from feeling like a Mario Kart pro, probably because for almost a year this was the only Mario Kart game I had, or Mario game in general. Even though I adore snaking, which is definitely a controversial take, I would never want to see it in another Mario Kart game, ever. The only downside to DS is that the retro courses are often mediocre due to obvious hardware limitations for porting N64 and GameCube tracks. Then again, Waluigi Pinball exists and that had no issues, but Yoshi's Circuit did? Or the fact that Baby Puck is now only 5 laps, not 7? 13. Super Mario Sunshine. Apparently, this game does have its haters, but I've never heard anyone trash it before. That is besides the awful blue coins. What were they thinking? They literally just changed the color of a coin from yellow to blue and now it's the most traumatizing thing in the world. Probably even more painful as some only appear in certain Shine episodes. Also, some shines in this game make me question if Nintendo was trying to piss some people off with the infamous Pachinko game and Lily Pad Ride secret courses. What this game shines at, how original I know, are the controls. And yes, every 3D Mario game besides 64 DS have insanely good movements in all the acrobatics this plumber can somehow perform without breaking a single bone in his body. Although Mario Sunshine has the most satisfying of controls, which feels slippery at first, once mastered it becomes insane. Especially paired up with the squirting water everywhere with the Flash Liquidizer Ultra Dowsing device, which makes the perfect platforming even more fun rather than infuriating. However, those linear levels where Shadow Mario steals the Flash Liquidizer Ultra Dowsing device seem simple in design, but their challenge makes these highlights of the game. What isn't a highlight is the horrifying voice acting, particularly between Bowser and Bowser Jr., but it's so charming I couldn't help enjoying myself. 12. Mario and Luigi Partners in Time, the Temple of Doom when it comes to the Mario and Luigi series, as they reflect the quality of the 5 Indiana Jones films surprisingly well. Partners in Time makes some questionable choices, strays away from aspects that made Superstar Saga so great to create some of the highest highs and of course lowest lows in this franchise. I first have to mention the removal of Bros attacks using Bros points, and instead being items that are bought from the shop or found in blocks. Of course, I didn't prefer this change, but it isn't really a huge deal considering I almost never run out of Bros items, just like how I hardly ever run out of BP. And if BP was added for each character, the stats would be useless for the babies, as they almost never face bosses alone, which is what you mainly use your BP heavy attacks on. It could have been a shared stat between the bros and babies, sorta like Mario RPG, but this would also be confusing when adding BP as a stat to the level up system. Like, it could have been possible, but I see why they are items now. Aside from that, the game also suffers from being linear and having almost no side quests, but once again, these aren't major problems which diminish the overall experience. That's of course due to the central gameplay both in battle and the overworld being a blast to play. One minute you're traversing through the depths of Thwomp Caverns, then you're aboard the Shroop mothership only to be dropped within a deteriorated past of Toad Town. That comes to another flaw of this game. Would have been cool to see places like Toad Town be in the present and past as well. However, maybe this could have led to the whole Dream Team issue where going through the real and dream world becomes repetitive. It's funny how almost every flaw can be justified and even considered as a way that improves the final product. My favorite example being the first area of the game, Holly Jolly Village. In this festive season, the Shroops destroy the entire village with only a single toad surviving. If you return to this place late in the game, the village is still in destruction, and it has not been rejuvenated to its former glory. But I think that personally highlights a serious threat the shrubs pose in this world and the high stakes of the adventure. Most importantly, this was the game which introduced the Ice Flower. Yeah, that wasn't New Super Mario Bros. Wii, nor Super Mario Galaxy. This game made it, the one with the babies crying and middle-aged toads wet. Finally, I'm probably not going to complain about the bosses being total HP sponges, as that was fixed in the PAL version of the game, which so happens to be the one I own. 11. Super Mario Bros. 3. You can definitely tell by this list that I'm not a huge fan of older Mario games due to not giving bias that there's some revolutionary thing. Also because of the clunky controls, I have to admit. But why should I drag down older Mario titles for weird feeling controls? Because Mario 3 exists. How does this game function so smoothly? This was made on the same console as Mario 1, and yes, you probably already know that, but just let it sink in for a bit. The level design with its Giant Land, Pipe Land, and Dark Land themes make each world feel so iconic. Enemies in the Overworld and Toad House minigames are also welcome additions. Brand new power-ups in the Super Leaf, Frog Suit, and Hammer Suit are incredible. Unless you use Frog Suit on land, that's awful. The bosses are, yeah, they're not the best, but in 2D Mario games they're never highlights anyway. Besides, facing Bowser at the end, who straight up ground pounds himself into the abyss, is hilarious and peak gaming. The overly enjoyable bite-sized levels allow Mario 3 to stand the test of time and be classified amongst the impeccable games to come. 10. Paper Mario. The first Mario game I ever desperately wanted to get after watching countless LPs, which made me wish I had an N64. And after playing Super and Sticker Star in attempts to satisfy my Paper Mario hunger, I finally got this game on the Wii U Virtual Console back in 2015. This was all I wanted from a Paper Mario, a really good battle system. That wasn't too hard, was it? The best part of battles involves equipping various badges you collect throughout the journey to find ways to quickly destroy enemies and bosses. The game's catchy slogan, "Thinner Mario, Bigger Adventure," sums up the shockingly cinematic feel the game has, as Bowser this time beats up Mario, throwing him out of Peach's castle. Between each chapter, Peach must cautiously look for clues within the castle to tell Mario where the next star spirit is. I know Mario has pummeled Bowser countless of times, but the Star Rod making him invincible creates one of the most satisfying final fights between the two. And how does this game make a desert, jungle, and ice area feel the complete opposite of unoriginal? It's maybe because the partners you meet, the exciting dungeons, and memorable side characters, such as the legendary Koopa Koot, are the cornerstones to an extraordinary experience. There are only a few issues here, with the most notable being that once you obtain your partners, they don't really speak for the entire journey, just giving Mario the silent treatment, just like he does. However, this isn't really a massive downside, and was only made an obvious issue due to it not being in the sequel. 9. Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. The fact that this was the only 3D Mario game on the Wii U is pretty sad, and comparing this to other 3D Mario games, the adventure isn't as grand. But considering this as a sequel to 3D Land in what I call the 2.5D Mario series, this is an astounding experience. And yes, it is repetitive that I keep praising these games, but we're approaching the top of the list. What else am I supposed to say? That this game is utter trash? Well, it is for the suffering champions Rogue gave me, what I believe is the hardest Mario level to date. Especially in a game that has levels and bosses which lean way more on the easier side, although 3D Land wasn't that hard either. And you must give credit for how original the level design is, which isn't obvious to see at first glance. There's a literal level where the flagpole runs away from you. There are a bunch of cool 8-bit Luigi Easter eggs, and the Mario Bros arcade is here again for some reason, now titled Luigi Bros. It's strange how much focus is on Luigi here. Maybe it has something to do with the year this game was made? Luigi's high jump, Toad's fast movement, and Peach's ability to float are cool references to Mario 2. And this was the first game in a while when Nintendo realized that maybe, just maybe, Peach shouldn't be kidnapped. So let's make Bowser kidnap the Sprixie princesses this time. Finally, the Switch port gave us Incredible Adventure of Bowser's Fury. It is extremely short, but certainly had to be, as these catshine missions tend to reuse the same formula and the whole Bowser Fury gimmick can get a tad annoying. I don't ever want 3D World to replace a new 3D Mario, but I also hope that it can be established as a third type of mainline Mario game, which we can hopefully see a sequel of sometime in the future. 8. Super Mario 64 / Super Mario 64 DS. I'm shocked at how great it feels to do long jumps, triple jumps, ball jumps, side flips, back flips, sweep kicks, and of course, pulling off some excellent breakdancing moves. These controls are more impressive considering how the 8-directional movement ruins the DS remake. I initially thought the original N64 game just had inaccurate controls to begin with, because once again, I first played the N64 version when it released on the Wii U Virtual Console, which was several years after I played the DS version. Still, DS added 30 extra stars and Yoshi, Wario and Luigi as playable characters, with Luigi's broken backflip showing somebody cared about him back in a year other than 2013. Despite more content, the N64 version is superior for its more precise controls. Aside from comparing the two, the game in general encompasses some of the most iconic moments in the entire Mario franchise, like beating up King Bob-omb at the top of Bob-omb Battlefield or dropping that cute little penguin into the abyss in Cool Cool Mountain. But then there's Dire Docks. Not having the time of my life with this one. We also got 3 amazing power-ups in the Wing, Vanish and Metal Cap. The last one being so good it's now a staple character in Mario Kart. Although I still prefer its appearance in Smash 64 and always forgot it existed in Mario Golf. Mario 64 set extremely high standards for 3D Mario, which somehow have been overcome multiple times. Probably because those games weren't pulled down by an obnoxious camera. 7. Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga. Initially I placed this below Partners in Time, but then I realized this game's more fun, and the more fun a game is, the higher it goes up on the list. This may sound weird, but the overworld here loosely reminds me of a top-down Zelda game, by unlocking new abilities throughout the adventure used to solve various puzzles, although far easier in something like this game. The brothers learn new bros moves, get hammers, and are one with the art of fire and thunder for Mario and Luigi respectively. Yes, that was a pretty bad impression of Luigi's thunder. Anyways, these overworld abilities of course allow for greater sections of the Bean Bean Kingdom to be accessed, allowing for the exploration of some wacky dungeons, if you can even classify them as that, such as Woohoo University, or Hooniversity, excuse me. Even if you haven't played this game, you know you're in for a good time with an area with a name like that. Also, there are dozens of rewarding secrets if you happen to return to previous areas, which you previously didn't have a strong enough hammer for, the right bros move, or Luigi hadn't learned Thunder yet. Sorry Luigi, but according to McQueen, Thunder always comes after Lightning. By the way, this game loves to mock Luigi, and that in Luigi fashion makes him the true star of this game. And we must talk about this killer battle system. If every RPG game had a battle system like Superstar Saga, I'd probably be trying way more out. This is the only Mario & Luigi game to use the overworld bros moves as the attacks in battle. For only using 2 buttons, it is a bit challenging to master these moves, hence the option to pick low difficulties at the cost of more BP is helpful, however you do lesser damage at the same time. If you do eventually master these slick moves, you unlock the advanced version, allowing you for further versatility in the moveset. The best part of this all are using these attacks on the game's wide array of bosses, ranging from the Chocolator to Lemmy. I probably butchered that name really badly. And yes, I was talking about Lemmy. Wait, why are the Kooplings here again? I guess I don't mind it since it was a reference to Mario World, the last game to have the Kooplings since their reappearance in the new Super Mario Bros. Game. One aspect I always find strange is that once you defeat Cackletta for the first time, the game suddenly drops in difficulty in terms of bosses. Like I literally one-hit KO'd the Trunkle boss fight, and that was without attacking his weak spot as well. Once you face the 2 final dungeons, Jerk's End and Bowser's Castle, the game randomly decides to stop having ridiculously easy bosses, with the final one being a bit of a challenge. That is if you don't use the Broken Mush badge. Fortunately, the remake nerfed it, yet there are issues with the remake, such as the fact that there is no original pixel art, which kind of ruins some of the humor. And it does have a Bowser's Minion mode, and the story is good, but that's pretty much about it. There's way too much grinding, the levels are laid out in some basic version of New Super Mario Bros. And if Bowser's Minions did fix these problems and maybe had an overall sword like Mario Rabbids, it could have been a fun time. And of course that mode is another key factor which definitely pulls down the remake in comparison to the original. 6. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. The Wii U version always annoyed me, as on one hand the precise controls and paired up with some of the highest quality nitro and retro tracks we've seen make this appear to be the ultimate Mario Kart game. But then they remove battle mode with this other version which I shall never refer to using the same name because of how atrocious it is. And a lot of character slots are wasted with baby clones, alternate costumes of Mario and Peach which could have easily just been drop down menus, and the 7 Koopalings but no Bowser Jr.? If they replaced Wendy with Bowser Jr., the world would be a better place. So how do you fix all these issues in a Switch port? You of course make Metal Mario have a drop down menu. Oh, and you bring back battle mode which some odd reason wasn't in the Wii U game. Strange. Balloon Battle sadly has a timer still, but there are 3 amazing modes to play, and coin runners. 8 Deluxe may not have a mission mode like DS, and tricking isn't as satisfying as Wii, but racing through these 96 courses thanks to the booster course pass is something I appreciate a ton. Of course, there are some inconsistencies in the DLC courses, in terms of quality, especially within the first wave. However, for every Tokyo blur lies a ninja hideaway, as those highs make these lows almost obsolete for me, especially when playing online, which is the most fun I've ever had with playing a Mario game online to date, as everyone is so cramped up together resulting in chaotic excitement on a course as sad as Toad Circuit. That Toad balloon smiling doesn't fool me, this course is pure evil. And obviously, the regular courses alongside the Wii U DLC ones are even better, with the F-Zero tracks being my all-time favourites. 8 Deluxe may show me that you don't need a Diddy Kong racing style adventure mode to be an extremely exciting time. However, if the next Mario Kart game does stand a chance against 8 Deluxe, it probably needs an adventure mode like that, especially if it's not going to have 96 courses. 5. Super Mario Galaxy 2. Now we're getting into the almost perfect territory. Everything in the top 5 here at one point used to be my favorite Mario game of all time. Galaxy 2 had everything I wanted of a Mario game when first playing it. Immersive atmospheres like Fluffy, Bluff and Shiverburn Galaxy, which I was in instant awe of playing, top-notch controls which are elevated by the mechanics of gravity, and Yoshi of course, who for some odd reason wasn't in the first game. You just get sucked into these stunning places in this game, as each galaxy feels so distinct from one another, making this truly live up to the ambitious adventure in which the title implies. On top of all of that, the new power-ups in the Cloud Flower and Rock Mushroom are undoubtedly some of my favorites in Mario history, and that's mainly due to how well they're used in their respective missions. The bosses add this incredible cinematic feel to the game, and once again feel so distinct from one another, as we aren't just fighting the Koopalings like a 2D Mario game, but they are the Bowser Jr. bosses. However, these are shockingly some of the best fights this game offers, with Mega Hammer and Boomsday Machine highlighting that Bowser Jr. works best when crafting his own wacky machines instead. And before you say, I don't count the Mandibug stack as a boss because it is just pathetic. So, when replaying the game a few years back, why does this not hold up as the best iteration of Mario there is? Because the green stars exist. And aren't these so tedious to collect? This fortunately did lead to the way moons are collected in Odyssey, as like these, green stars are placed in some unusual locations. Also, they are super quick to collect, making it super frustrating that half of the time is spent re-entering the galaxy just after being kicked out. This single problem would turn me away from finding these stars. That is, if it wasn't for the extremely satisfying reward of unlocking Grandmaster Galaxy. What started the trend of the final Mario level being an exciting nightmare to go through. And with 9,999 star bits, you unlock the perfect run, forcing you to go through the level while taking 0 hits. Despite it sounding very challenging, it isn't the hardest of these iterations of Mario levels, which we see in Champions Road in 3D World, and the final test badge marathon from Mario Wonder being more harder for me personally. However, this perfect run is still a blast to go through. 4. Super Mario Odyssey. Another one where first playing it upon release, I thought this was undoubtedly my favorite Mario game ever. Unlike Galaxy 2, I went for the 100% completion on my first run, and there wasn't anything like the green stars which pulled down my overall enjoyment. There are certainly some minor nitpicks, such as there being way too many moons to collect. However, if the number of moons were reduced, then many kingdoms would feel very empty. In every Mario game prior, I always tried to access places I wasn't intended to go to, which obviously results in 0 reward. That is besides the occasional hidden 1-ups in the Galaxy games, but they're pointless as your 1-up count resets once rebooting the game anyway. But in Odyssey, the moons are an excellent incentive to visit these obscure places, and if you visit the strangest of places, you're even rewarded with plenty of coins. These regular coins, alongside the kingdom's purple coins, can be used to buy some insane costumes for Mario. Similar to the Wonder Effect, the main selling point of Odyssey is Cappy, and his ability to capture various enemies and objects. This game literally makes capturing a pole feel like I'm having the time of my life. I could keep praising Odyssey, which keeps making me more furious that Odyssey 2 never happened on the Nintendo Switch. But why is this game still not in the top 3? Because while I appreciate how many moons are implemented, the fact that one moon can take a good 5 minutes while another takes only 5 seconds is a bit concerning. While this is an issue in other 3D Mario games, particularly Mario 64, it is most obvious here as this game is closer to perfect for me. Also, there are multi-moons to collect when completing the main objectives, so this could have been easily possible to vary the number of moons collected based on how long a specific mission takes. But this doesn't really ruin the enjoyment I have with Odyssey. It only serves as an excuse to justify why the final 3 games are even better. 3. Super Mario Galaxy. If I could ever give birth to a child, I want it to look exactly like Super Mario Galaxy for the Nintendo Wii. The game, which is basically Galaxy 2, where there's a whole lot more emphasis on the space, gravity, and planet mechanics, at the cost of no Yoshi, sadly. Also, the larger galaxies have 3 main stars to collect rather than 2 in the sequel, allowing for more notable standouts like Battle Rock, Gussie Garden, and Toy Time. Although this makes no one really care about the smaller galaxies, consisting of a single star. But that's not saying all of them are mediocre, they just don't impact the player the same way the larger galaxies do, and they're not intended to do that anyway. The game also delivers some cinematic cutscenes, which prior to mainline games, which have tried looking at you Sunshine, this was the first time it highlighted how grand this adventure truly is. Aside from these cutscenes, simply observing the vast background of a galaxy while flying through a launch star builds some of the most memorable moments you will ever have playing a video game. Mario Galaxy is absolutely breathtaking to play through and creates some of the most wholesome experiences ever, as each new galaxy you visit recreates that sense of fascination you had when entering the previous galaxy for the first time. This game is excellent, but it's only number 3. Yeah, I just like the other 2 games even more. So I'll use the game's very few uses of motion control levels such as Loop-de-Loop and Rolling Green Galaxy as an excuse to drag this one down from being number 1. Although I do have to admit I like the way Bubble Breeze Galaxy incorporated the motion controls. 2. Paper Mario: The 1,000-Year Door. The best part about not ranking every single Mario game there ever was is that you can't use process of elimination to theorize my final picks. Like, I haven't talked about Mario Party Island Tour, and I hope I never will because that looks awful. Anyways, The 1,000-Year Door was the final Mario RPG I had left to play, which I did in 2021, because back then I thought the game would never have a remake or remaster. Wasn't I wrong about that? There is the tedious backtracking and the fact that this game became a joke in terms of difficulty for me, as I did the Pit of 100 Trials after Chapter 5 for some odd reason, which made me really overlevel. Regardless, we got a phenomenal game in our hands, largely due to the vast array of memorable side characters. Super Mario Galaxy might be better objectively, but it has Honey Queen. The Thousand Year Door has Don Pianta. Unlike a typical Mario adventure, this game also has a good story. Who knew that was possible? Guess back in 2004, making a 1,000-year-old demon return from the dead was allowed for an E-rated Mario game. The best part of this wacky adventure and dark journey are the partners, who don't give Mario the silent treatment this time around after they join your party, as during every important cutscene, each partner has a unique set of dialogue. There are also badges specific to partners, and they have their own HP in battle, allowing for them to take the hit instead of Mario if you strategize properly. The battle system here is insane, especially the interaction of the audience giving heart points, or chucking a hammer at Mario and his partner. Luckily, you can seek vengeance by going all the way into the crowd and beat up the audience member personally. Extra features like stylish moves and super guards also allow for an additional layer of depth in mastering action commands. And finally, the chapters are impressive. What else am I supposed to say? This is my favorite second Mario game, so it's very hard to trash on. My favorite chapters are the one in the boxing place and the one in the train, because I've always had a thing for trains. I don't know, it's just fun to be on a train. But my number one pick does have an even cooler train. Showtime! 1. Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. The remake censors Luigi's sock, and I shall never forgive it for that. I will also never speak a word of that grindy Bowser Jr.'s Journey side mode and the remake's 3D models downgrading the original game's charm, especially in terms of Bowser. Speaking of King Koopa, doesn't he steal the show in this game with all his punching and sucking? He also gets very fat at one point. So does Luigi, and technically Mario. But the bros don't get to be giant like Bowser, where he gets to beat up a train with Fawful's face on it. This simply cannot be topped. It's very hard to talk about Bowser's inside story, as it's easier to discuss games which have shortcomings, since there isn't really any notable issues with this game. The giant battles, while simple, don't have annoying gyro controls like Dream Team. The main villain in Fawful is hilarious while also serving as a threat, especially by making many toads become obese. What is with this game and making everyone overweight? The final boss, it may look like a reskin of Bowser, but this is one of the most outstanding fights in any Mario game to date, particularly coupled with that soundtrack I'm sure you've heard countless of times. The bros attacks sort of work as fun minigames, which are very satisfying to pull off, and Bowser's special attacks make excellent use of the DS touchscreen. And you roam around in Bowser's body. What more could you want? Perhaps besides Fawful becoming overweight, but I think there's enough of that already. Unlike most people's favorite Mario game, I don't hold any wholesome childhood nostalgic memories with Bowser's Inside Story. In fact, I hated how I couldn't get past the Wiggler carrot minigame, which is really early on in the venture as well. But when I picked this up later on and finally conquered the art of eating a massive carrot, I played through this entire adventure, and I still thought Partners in Time was the better game. But when making this ranking, I realized that this is my favorite Mario game, because for me, personally, it feels the most Mario out of any game on this list, even if that makes zero sense at all. For me, Bowser's Inside Story is the perfect Mario game, even though as a video game, it's not close to perfect at all. This is why it beats the other 79 Mario games I've played, and will probably be better than any game I'll play in the future. But who knows? Perhaps once I get my hands on Mario Party Island Tour, it'll be the greatest game I've ever experienced. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this very long video, and I'm hoping you didn't fall asleep along the way. As you can tell, this video was heavily inspired by Nathaniel Bandy's Mario ranking. Before it, I always opened up videos on YouTube stating they would rank every Mario game ever, and then the list is like 20 games. You could say it's only the mainline Mario games, but some of these videos include Mario Maker or Paper Mario, but exclude Mario and Luigi for some odd reason. Anyways, I must give credit for Nathaniel Bandy's Mario ranking video for inspiring me to make this own list with many similar games but also some different ones. Like, who in the world is going to include Boom Street in their list? And of course, with all these Mario titles, I couldn't create my own footage for a lot of these games, particularly the handheld ones. So I must give credit to all the YouTubers I used footage of during this video, which should be linked in the description below. Despite my seemingly low quality content, it did take me 3 months to create this, so I do hope you all had some enjoyment with the list. Or at the very least you were furious with the way I ranked these games, because that shows you actually watched this video, which does mean a lot to me. Well, that's it for now. Goodbye.